Open shade, it's our best friend. Basically, open shade means that you could, the sun is not directly hitting you, you're out in the open air. It could be underneath a veranda, it could be underneath a tree or behind a tree. Ultimately, it is something where the light source is not directly hitting you, the actual light source itself. But ultimately now the sky or the clouds or whatever it may be becomes the light source and it's flooding in. Now, I think the biggest mistake what people make with open shade is that you feel like the lighting is the same everywhere because the sun's behind the clouds as an example. Therefore, the whole world, all the clouds are one big softbox and everything's the same. No, it's not. In fact, open shade sounds easy, feels easy, but not as easy to find the shadow. So let me explain that in a bit more further detail. Let's look at this photograph. Where's the direction of light coming from? You can see the glow of light. It's open shade. It's not really sunlight, but you can see that open light, that iridescence, that saturation on the skin that we're looking for is actually on the groom's face. It's on Eric's face. Now, you might say, well, why did you turn his face away? Well, I'm broad lighting him, often considered masculine as we've discussed in previous segments, but then I've got Megan hugging from behind, leaning forward and turning her face into the light. So she arguably gets the better light, even though we've got beautiful light on him as well. And then we've got some negative space and some foliage framing them in that photograph. But it's important to know that there is a direction of light. And you may have heard me in previous segments to say that I'll often look at my hand and look at how it reflects and how it deflects and all those different things and look at the saturation, iridescence on my skin, and I'll just keep on turning around. This is a great way to do things when you are working in open shade because you might just think it's just the lighting is the same everywhere. No, it's not. Remember that the camera picks up more contrast that you do with your own two eyes. So in other words, when you see a subject matter, like looking at you right on the camera, for example, you will see more detail. You've got a higher dynamic range in your eyes than the camera will pick up. In other words, you've got built-in HDR. So just know that if you see a subtle shadow with your own, with your own two eyes, the camera is going to make it more contrasty if you in fact expose for the highlight, which basically means you want detail on the brightest highlight in the face. So a couple of keys to this is this, and you've heard me say this previously, is turn the face, that's one of my signatures to my work, tilt the face and chin up, and what will happen is you'll get light hitting the face, filtering through, not so much filtering through per se, but skimming across the face on the bridge of the nose and illuminating the eye socket, which now becomes the eye that's closest to the camera. So remember, a very, very important point is when you're photographing in the open shade, as in just no direct sunlight, no direct spotlight, it's just open shade, like I said, under a veranda and in any capacity, you need to bring the chin up. And what I do is I often tilt the face. Now, why do I put the chin up? Is because, well, the light looks better on me if I tilt the face upwards. If I bring the chin down, I might get little shadows on the eye sockets, perhaps some shadows, maybe give the bride a 5 o'clock beard sort of type of thing, and that's not very, very attractive. So what we want to do is bring the chin up. The problem is with being the chin up, it's not really natural. We don't do that in normal life. But when you tilt, that's the way you love someone, that's the way you hug someone, that's the way you kiss someone, that's the way you endear to someone. So that becomes more natural. The cool thing is, when we bring the chin up and tilt the face, we now angle the face. The side of the face now becomes a shadow side, as we see in this environment. That we create the shadow side in two ways. We tilt the face and chin up, so light's coming up above. We deepen the shadow also by bringing her against the wall. And that way we get beautiful direction of light in open shade where it normally wouldn't do that. Same example here. I just said to the bride here, I always call them brides, but basically Megan in her 20th anniversary shoot, I said, put the hat on yourself. I want to feel like you put it on, you're having a bit of a giggle about it. She tilted her face and chin upwards, and even though we're in open shade, we still see a very beautiful direction of light. Light's coming over here, she's tilting her face. Her face now is parallel to the ground, somewhat parallel, and then also the wall is cutting away light, giving her a shadow, therefore contrast, therefore we get this sort of beautiful looking camera. Whereas most people think that my work, there's a trick to it, that I have an incredible Photoshop artist that gives me all these things, but you can't beat good capture. Great capture, like direction of light, all the composition, the exposure that you want that allows you to move in many directions in post-production is very, very important. Here we are in Florence. So lots of people walking in this sort of this walkway, but I crop them out this way, lay on the ground, and again, turn a face, chin up a little bit, and then open shade looks like a very, very strong direction of light. Shade on him as well. It just looks beautiful. So remember, with open shade, usually the key is look for the iridescence in the skin tone. If you can't see it on somebody or in the natural environment or anything like that, make sure that you're observing everything that you're seeing. In other words, if you're in a local park and you've got trees everywhere, then I want you to look left, right, up and down, and you will see foliage look more saturated and there's more of a quality of light. There's a beautiful iridescence about it. Then that's where you know where the great light is. Remember what we said about the 5 steps to a great photograph. We said light, location, pose, technique, emotion. So light, basically the beauty of light is the iridescence, is the direction of light, gives us contrast and gives us beautiful depth and texture and dimension and form is what we want. So practice this by looking at your hand when you're photographing. Do a 360, tilt the hand up a little bit. Now you know what you need to do and what position you need to place your subjects as well. Keep practicing, and next we're going to look at reflectors.